Good evening, I'm Tim Norton. I'm the Executive Director of the Kansas Aviation Museum. Thank you for joining us tonight for the 36th Annual Induction Ceremony for the Kansas Aviation Hall of Fame. Tonight should be a glorious evening to celebrate 5 inductees into the Hall of Fame. Sit back and enjoy, and I know it's going to be a great evening because I am in a tuxedo. So thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy. I'd like to thank some of the people that made this possible tonight: the Kansas State Historical Society, the Aviation Advisory Committee of the Department of Transportation, the Kansas Commission on Aerospace Education, and of course, the Kansas Aviation Museum. We'd also like to thank our presenting sponsor, NIAR at WSU and Eaton Roofing. Thank you very much for your sponsorship and being involved with this great ceremony. Now it's time to open up that swag box that you got. Open it up and look inside. You're going to be surprised. I'm going to call on Pat with Shaken and Stirred to give you a little lesson in mixology.
Hi, my name's Pat, again with Shaken and Stirred Bartending, and thanks for the introduction from Tim. I really appreciate it. Today we're really happy to make a cocktail for you, the Removed Before Flight, all for the Kansas Aviation Museum Hall of Fame. So what we're going to do first is we're going to prepare our glass. Now, you could take a little foam and a little bit of moisture on that foam and rim your glass and then put your glass in the sugar or the salt, whichever you're going to prefer for this cocktail. I recommend salt since we're using tequila. But what I like to do is I'll take the garnish that I'm going to use and I'll rub that garnish around the rim of the glass. That'll give the glass the moisture that you need in order for the salt to stick. And then you just take it and rim the glass with as much salt as you like. I usually like a lot of salt, but it's up to you. As you can see, it gets a little messy. We'll put that down. So then we're gonna have 3 main ingredients in here, 4 main ingredients actually if you count the tequila. And so what we're gonna do is we're going to start prepping those. You're gonna take your cocktail shaker and open it up, make sure it's ready to go, okay? And since we're doing this remotely this time, we had to do a little bit something different for the fruits, okay? So what we're going to do is you get your packet, okay? We're gonna empty each one into a small glass. So we're gonna start with our lemon. And then our lime in the next glass. And you'll then add an ounce of water to each glass. Now if you want, you can grab those and swirl them around a little bit and get that mixture to start dissolving for you. However, I wouldn't worry about it too much because you're going to put it in your shaker and you're going to give it a good shake afterwards. So just make sure you start the process on it. Once you have that done, we're going to go ahead and add our ice to your cocktail shaker. And then go ahead and add your ingredients in. So first we'll do the lemon juice. Next we'll do the grapefruit juice. And then we're going to go ahead and add our 1 ounce of cranberry juice in. Then all that's left is the tequila. You don't even have to worry about measuring this. Now we're going to go ahead and give that shaker a good shake. Normally it takes anywhere between 15, 20, 25 seconds, but you'll start to feel the metal on the shaker get cold. And don't be afraid to be aggressive for it because you're trying to break up that ice in there and make it mix and give it the water texture that it also needs. Okay, now we're ready to strain into our cocktail glass. And there we have our remove before flight.
And now I'd like to introduce the governor of the great state of Kansas, Laura Kelly.
Thank you, Tim, and good evening, everyone. I'm pleased to be here to recognize a fantastic group of Kansans for their contributions to the aviation industry in our state and our country. As you all know, aviation is a staple here in Kansas. We've earned a worldwide reputation for excellence and cultivated deep roots in commercial and general aviation. Not to mention our legacy of defense work that stretches back decades. Industry leaders like Airbus, Bombardier, Textron Aviation, and Spirit AeroSystems have thriving operations in Kansas. They employ thousands of skilled workers and support the more than 450 aviation industry suppliers and service providers operating right here in our state. But as with any industry in our state, aviation excellence is about more than the companies or the industry as a whole. It's about the people. People like Clyde Cessna, Kansas native and founder of Cessna Aircraft Company, who in 1911 was the first person between the Mississippi River and the Rocky Mountains to build and fly his own aircraft. It's about people like aviator and Atchison native Amelia Earhart, the first woman to fly across the Atlantic in 1928, who has inspired generations of women to pursue a career among the clouds. And it's about people like the exceptional men and women we honor tonight, who have dedicated their lives to the industry. Tonight, I get to kick off the evening with the Governor's Aviation Honor Award. This award was created to recognize the individual efforts made in pioneering and growing aviation and space exploration in Kansas. When it comes to keeping Kansas on the cutting edge of innovation and inspiring the next generation to continue our legacy of aviation excellence, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better candidate than this year's awardee. The 2020 recipient of the Governor's Aviation Honor Award is Dr. John S. Tomlin and the National Institute for Aviation Research, where Dr. Tomlin serves as the executive director.
Thank you, Governor Kelly. And now a word from the Lieutenant Governor, Tolan.
I'm honored to join the governor, the folks from the Kansas Aviation Museum, and people across Kansas and the country for this historic event. Tonight, it's my pleasure to share with you the 2020 and 2021 inductees to the Kansas Aviation Hall of Fame. Our 4 honorees are outstanding in every way. This virtual format may not be the traditional approach to this ceremony, but please know it in no way diminishes the significance of the awards and the contributions of these accomplished and amazing Kansans. Kansas is home to the world's leading aerospace engineers and manufacturing minds, and we're fostering cutting-edge innovations that keep us at the forefront of this critical industry, including the rapid emergence of unmanned aerial systems. Whether it is success in commercial aviation or critical national security assets, Kansas is looked to as a leader, and we're proud of our legacy and confident in our ability to help foster new growth and innovation in this field. Without a doubt, we are a state on the rise and a state that is well positioned for future success. The Kansas Aviation Hall of Fame was created to preserve the memory of extraordinary citizens of Kansas who made contributions to aviation that are of statewide or national significance. And I'm proud to help recognize 4 such Kansans tonight. We'll start with the 2 inductees from 2020, General Richard B. Myers, United States Air Force retired, and Velma Wallace. And I'll turn it back over to Tim to give you some more details on these outstanding inductees.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, and of course, Governor Kelly. This evening, we will be inducting 5 individuals into the Kansas Aviation Hall of Fame. The Kansas Aviation Hall of Fame was created to preserve the memory of extraordinary citizens of Kansas who have made innumerable contributions to aviation at a statewide or national significance. I'm pleased to announce the 2020 Hall of Fame inductees. I am going to have to put on my glasses because as I go through this, I don't want to make any mistakes for our inductees. Our first inductee is General Richard B. Myers, United States Air Force, retired. General Richard B. Myers returned to his home state and alma mater to serve as Kansas State University's 14th president. He graduated from the university in 1965 with a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering and joined the Air Force through K-State's ROTC program. The native Kansas from Merriam loyally served his country and retired as a 4-star general. From 2001 to 2005, he served as the 15th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. As chairman, Myers was the highest-ranking uniformed officer of the U.S. military forces and served as the principal military advisor to President George W. Bush, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld, and the National Security Council. As a command pilot, Myers logged more than 4,100 flying hours, including 600 combat hours. His significant commands included North American Aerospace Defense Command, U.S. Space Command, and Air Force Space Command at Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado, Pacific Air Force at Hickam Air Force Base, Hawaii, and the 5th Air Force at Yokota Air Base, Japan. He was appointed vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff by President Clinton in 2000. He has received numerous awards and decorations for his service, which include Legion of Merit, French Legion of Honor, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Myers also is a Kansas State University Foundation Professor of Military History and Leadership. He received a master's degree in business administration from Auburn University in 1977. He also graduated from Air Command and Staff College at Maxwell Air Force Base in 1977, U.S. Army War College at Carlisle Barracks in 1981, and the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University, where he completed a program for senior executives in national and international security in 1991. Throughout Myers' active duty and world travels, he continued relationships with his friends back home. He has provided instruction, insight, and inspiration to current students and the K-State community. In 2000, he presented the 118th Landon Lecture at Kansas State University, where he spoke about the military's role in international relationships. Kansas State University named the Military Science Building home of the Army ROTC and the Air Force ROTC programs, the General Richard B. Myers Hall, in honor of his service and dedication. He and his wife, Mary Jo, served as co-chairs of the Kansas State University Innovation and Inspiration Campaign, which raised more than $1.4 billion. General Richard B. Myers, our first honoree tonight. Assisting me tonight with the awards is Magan Bearman, our museum's education director. Magan?
Well, thank you very much, Tim, for that kind introduction. And to thank everybody that had anything to do with my being inducted into the Kansas Aviation Hall of Fame. I've got to tell you, I'm really proud of this, proud and humbled to be a really small part of this great aviation legacy we have here in the state of Kansas. I've got to tell you, nothing on that biography that Tim went through would have been possible if it weren't for the state of Kansas and all the great people in this state that helped me through many different projects and paths to become an aviator. I remember going to K-State, not thinking about a military career, and then enrolled in Air Force ROTC. It was mandatory to enroll in either Army or Air Force. I picked the Air Force, They taught me to fly here in Manhattan, Kansas. Back in 1964, my dollar ride at the Manhattan airport was an amazing event for me. Changed my life forever. Going up in a Cessna 172 and just looking down on the ground from a whole different perspective, right? The way it smelled, the way it felt, kind of bouncing around a little bit with the wind. I said, wow, this is cool. I didn't even care about whether or not it had military utility. I just thought this was really cool. Even the Navy helped with the reserve training they had out of Olathe. Watching the F-8s, parking at the end of the runway and watching the F-8s in the traffic pattern and just dreaming that perhaps someday I could do that. All the other help I got through my mentors, my professors, those that were helping me along that path. It was all due to growing up in Kansas. So I owe not only my aviation career, but my military career to being a Kansan. And I'm proud of that fact. And I thank everybody that had anything to do with this. And there are lots of you out there. And I'm very proud now to be part of the Kansas Aviation Hall of Fame. Thank you very much. I appreciate you all.
Our second 2020 inductee into the Kansas Aviation Hall of Fame is Velma Lunt Wallace. Velma was born in Wichita on May 16th. She graduated from Wichita North High and Wichita Business College. She was hired at Cessna Aircraft Company in 1937 to be the executive secretary to Dwayne L. Wallace. They married in 1941 and had 4 daughters. Sharing Dwayne's love of flying, Velma became a pilot herself with single and multi-engine ratings. After Dwayne's death in 1989, Velma continued giving her time and resources to the Wichita community. She and Dwayne established the Wallace Scholar Program at Wichita State University in 1976 to provide scholarships to engineering students. And that still is providing scholarships in the Wichita and Kansas community. Velma always was deeply involved with the Wichita community in programs of all kinds. Velma passed away in 2012 in her home in Wichita, Kansas. Though she is gone, her legacy has not been forgotten within the Wichita and surrounding communities. Her commitment and generous contribution to Exploration Place made that icon on the river possible. Our next award recipient, Velma Lunt Wallace.
The person is the star, the feminine star of our show today, the first lady of this occasion, Mrs. Wallace.
For over 40 years, you stood at his side and witnessed the building of one of the largest and most successful aircraft companies in the world.
Dwayne was a 1933 graduate of Wichita State, and he used his skills in terms of having an impact on the industry.
The fact of the matter is there would be no Cessna Aircraft Company if it wasn't for Dwayne. Dwayne is the man that built the business, was a tremendous engineer, had great ideas, had great drive, and the company that exists today is a tribute to Dwayne's initiatives and hard work over so many years.
An energetic, creative guy who surrounded himself with smart people, including a wonderful wife, and raised a great family.
You were his co-pilot in life, best friend, confidant, and loving mother of his children. Eager to make a difference in the lives of students and the aerospace community, you and Dwayne created the Dwayne L. and Velma L. Wallace Endowment at Dwayne's alma mater, Wichita State University, in 1976.
So at the time I arrived, it was a small program, just beginning, but it's blossomed into a very significant program over the years. Dwayne and Velma started an annual picnic for the Wallace Scholars, and an annual seniors breakfast for the graduates. One of the high points that Dwayne brought to the scholars in the 80s was that he took the Wallace scholars out to the airport in Augusta, and he would fly his vintage airplane and do quite interesting loops and for the students. And that was always a very exciting experience for the students.
In December 1989, Dwayne Wallace passed away. He left a legacy at Cessna that spanned more than 40 years.
And when you talk to Velma, what's really happened with the Wallace Scholars is she has, in the past decade and a half, really molded the scholarship program into a personal enhancement. The students have mentors for each other. And since then, there have been over 620 awards of scholarships that can be as much as 4-year scholarships if you stay in engineering and keep your grades. And the fascinating history with respect to her program is whether it's engineering or others, the students have been selected. Over 80% of them get a college degree.
You were there at the beginning and played a major role in seeing Exploration Place go from a dream to a reality.
She was not only a big contributor to the beginning of Exploration Place, but played a real role in putting the governance structure together that made that work.
Everyone knows the monetary financial commitment she made, but what a lot of people don't know is that she remained involved on a personal basis with the board and staff of Exploration Place. She was always very careful to be there and to just, I think by her presence, demonstrate her commitment. It wasn't just here's some money and good luck and walk away. She was there throughout, and it's been 18 years now.
She makes things happen, but it never seems to be something she's doing. Pretty remarkable.
Her influence is a quiet one, by example, by her presence, but above all, she's certainly a pillar of this community, a real person in every way.
Your passion for music, theater, and young people succeeding in what they do best warms your heart.
I think Velma appreciates any kind of program that allows young people to blossom and to find their true calling. It's part of the Wallace Scholar mission, obviously, but she's also been very supportive of things like Exploration Place and Music Theater of Wichita, where we have opportunities for young people that are unique. She's a tremendously compassionate and tireless lady, and it's a great honor to be a friend of hers. It really is.
She has been a huge supporter of the Red Cross, likewise United Way.
People lose sight of the fact she was a pilot, had single and multiple engine ratings, and she took pride in that. Now, her comments to me, that's the only way I get to be with Dwayne. She's lived in the industry, she's been a part of the ups and downs of the industry, and she's helping bring new people into the industry that she knows will make a difference.
Over the years, she's blossomed into a person who has become very important in the life of Wichita. And if you want to sum it up as to who Velma is, just call me Velma.
Well, I think once a year there ought to be a Velma Day, where people send each other cards, where they laugh, where they tell stories. I think that would be a great way to celebrate Velma annually and make sure that the date is good for her to be there.
Velma, in her way, says, you know, I'm just a farm girl who was in these situations. And I'd say she's a farm girl who's done like a lot of other farm girls. She's really done well.
For your distinguished service and huge contributions to the aviation industry and the betterment of the Wichita community, the Wichita Aero Club is honored to present to you its first Wichita Aero Club trophy. Dwayne would be proud. Congratulations, Valma.
Velma would be particularly proud of this. You all know she was Velma was Dwayne's wife, his secretary before they got married. She was his secretary when Dwayne and his brother Dwight were resurrecting Cessna Aircraft Company during the Depression. She was also his wingman /one and his co-pilot. And I can tell you that one of the things that she was particularly proud of was being a pilot and flying just about everything that Cessna made, up to and including the 421, which was a top of the line twin at the time when I joined the family. And I can tell you that she would be particularly pleased to be included with other great aviators and people that have contributed to the success of the aviation business in Wichita. So thank you again, and I really appreciate being able to do this on Velma's behalf.
The next award is the Governor's Aviation Honor Award. It was created to preserve the memory of outstanding aviation contributions by citizens of the state of Kansas. The intent of this award is to recognize and record the future generations the many individual efforts that have been made in the pioneering, growth, and development of aviation and space exploration in Kansas. The 2020 Governor's Aviation Honor Award recipient is Dr. John S. Tomlin with NIAR at WSU. Dr. Tomlin is the Senior Vice President for Industry and Defense Programs at WSU and the Executive Director of NIAR at WSU. He is also the Sam Bloomfield Distinguished Professor of Aerospace Engineering. As NIAR Executive Director, Dr. Tomlin oversees 18 laboratories in 4 locations, encompassing 1 million square feet, 650 employees, and a yearly budget of nearly $95 million. Under his leadership, Dr. Tomlin also serves as Director of NIAR's Composites and Advanced Materials Laboratory, Mechanical Test Laboratory, the FAA Center of Excellence for Composites and Advanced Materials, and the National Center for Advanced Materials Performance. He serves as administrator of the Composites Materials Handbook 17 Working Group meetings and is co-chairman of the CMH 17 Data Review Working Group. Prior to becoming executive director, Dr. Tomlin served as NIAR's Director of Research and Development, associate professor in WSU's College of Engineering from 2000 to 2004, and assistant professor of aerospace engineering at WSU from 1994 to 2000. Dr. Tomlin also served as adjunct professor roles at Kansas State University and Wright State University. During his time at WSU, Dr. Tomlin has directed a number of multidiscipline and multi-investigatory projects with external funding exceeding $125 million. He has been working in the area of material qualifications and insertion into aviation production for the past 18 years, has numerous publications in the areas of composite and advanced materials research, and has authored extensive reports in the Agate program as well as FAA technical reports, where have been resulted in FAA policy governing the use of composites within the aerospace industry. In 2003, Dr. Tomlin provided testimony before the U.S. Senate Department of Commerce Committee on Science, Space, and Technology on the future of the aerospace industry relative to the role of academia in partnership with government and industry, and how that effective collaboration can contribute to the future of the U.S. aerospace industry. Our next inductee into the Governor's Award, Dr. John Tomlin.
The National Institute for Aviation Research at Wichita State University provides research, testing, certification, and training for aviation and manufacturing technologies. Established in 1985, NIAR has a $96 million annual budget, a staff of 650, and nearly 1 million square feet of laboratory and office space in 4 locations across the city of Wichita, the air capital of the world. Because of NIAR's research efforts, Wichita State University ranks 3rd among all U.S. universities in aeronautical R&D expenditures, according to the National Science Foundation. WSU ranks 1st in industry funding for aeronautical expenditures. In his 25 years at Wichita State University, John Tomlin's boundless intellect, energy, and relationship-building skills have forever changed the physical landscape of the university and the way it serves its students, industry, government, and the community. In partnership with multiple university presidents and executive team members, he has led the university's most important strategic initiatives. John's work drives both the applied learning vision and economic driver mission that are central to WSU's growing impact. The positive impact of his leadership is seen especially in the growth of the National Institute for Aviation Research, the creation and success of the National Center for Aviation Training, and the vision and rapid development of Innovation Campus. John was already a well-established professor of aerospace engineering and internationally recognized researcher when he became executive director of NIAR in 2004 at the age of 33. As NIAR has grown into an international presence in aerospace research and testing, John answered the call to take on additional responsibilities. Now, as Senior Vice President for Industry and Defense Programs, he oversees multiple university research centers, institutes, and sponsored programs.
John has this innate ability to see capabilities in people that they don't necessarily see in themselves. John has spent an extensive amount of time coaching me, teaching me, pushing me. He took me from, being scared just to talk to people one-on-one to, last month I hosted the Secretary of the Air Force.
First and foremost, he's extremely smart. Not just as an engineer, but got a strong business sense, really has a firm grasp on the soft skills as well, so he's a great communicator.
He has the unique capability to be able to talk to multiple levels of the organization, whether it's the CEO on the financial side, whether it's the engineer on the shop floor, whether it's the production worker out on the line. He is a very unique combination of both technical capability and salesmanship.
In all the relationships, and why I think NIAR has been so successful is John's been really good about binding together government needs, university strengths, and what the industry needs, and bringing all 3 of those together.
For example, the NCAM program, or the one before AGATE program, where he brought the aircraft industry, material suppliers, certification agencies all together and create a methodology used by the worldwide aircraft industry today to insert composite material at a lower cost at a rapid rate.
His ability to create that program, which then, allowed the material users, the governing agencies such as the FAA and EASA, to come together with the end users, so the people like, Boeing, Spirit, Textron, Hawker Beechcraft, Cessna, all of those, to be able to come together, work on a particular material together, create a process together, and then be able to make that a standard process that can be used not only here in Kansas, but in the nation and in the world at large. It's something that's going to carry NIAR, Wichita State, and Kansas Aviation clear into the future.
John is a leader that inspires innovation and thinking outside the box. That's why the Innovation Campus has grown, and that's why it'll continue to grow. You take students that have been exposed to something or have, learned something theoretically, and now it's time for them to try it out. And John, he just knows how to mitigate risk, and he empowers people, to give it a try, and that's what applied learning is.
One of the things that we've done with applied learning is we can get our students in their freshman, sophomore year and work for that company for 2, 3, 4 years before they graduate. They learn the culture of that company. That company can hire people that fit the culture they need, and that has kept more of our graduates in Kansas working here. All of that happened because John Tomlin not only said, here's how you do it, but I'm going to put some plans in place to show that it works. So we have companies that will say, absolutely, we've done that, and we ended up hiring more students than we ever thought we would because of that program.
John Tomlin is absolutely deserving of the Governor's Aviation Honors Award. He's not just a researcher, he's a friend to the industry, and there's no one that deserves that award more than him. It's absolutely, something that he'll be remembered for a long, long time.
John Tomlin is NIAR and NIAR is him. The two are inseparable. He didn't create NIAR, but he is the one that has built NIAR and taking it to a level that really is unprecedented in many industries.
He's my boss, he's my mentor, and he's a friend. And you don't usually find all three of those things in one person.
He's been a great friend, great mentor. He's shaped my career path on many levels. He's shaped the type of person I am as well. So he means a lot to me. He means the world to me.
Congratulations, Dr. Tomlin, on this outstanding achievement. Your work plays a critical role in putting our state on the map as the place for aviation companies to start, to grow, and to continue to employ skilled Kansans. I thank you for your hard work and dedication to driving the aviation industry in Kansas to new heights.
Well, I am honored to accept this award, and I wanted to thank the Kansas Aviation Museum and Governor Kelly for selecting me for this recognition. After working in Kansas for close to 3 decades, I've been very fortunate to work with people in and around the aviation industry, some of which you saw make comments on the video. There are some special, unique individuals that make up the ecosystem of companies and people around Kansas that make up what we call the air capital of the world. Not soon after the Wright brothers flew the first airplane, a very few pioneers started us down the path to manufacture airplanes in Wichita and the surrounding region, and this has encouraged others to follow that path as well. I just want to say how honored I am to be part of that legacy in maintaining Kansas as the air capital of the world, and I want to thank you again for the recognition of this award. So thank you.
Because we've combined 2020 and 2021 because of the COVID pandemic, we now announce our first 2021 Hall of Fame inductee, Lieutenant Commander Maurice Wick Wickendahl. A Kansas native, Maurice Wick Wickendahl left the University of Kansas during his last semester to join the Navy. Wick started his Navy career prior to World War II, earning a hard-to-come-by position as a VF-10 Grim Reaper fighter pilot. During the Battle of Santa Cruz, his team prevented the Japanese dive bombers from striking their ship, the USS Enterprise. He went on to fly almost every mission of the Pacific Theater, ultimately flying a total of 45 combat missions before returning home to train new pilots. It was then that Wick was chosen by his former roommate to help form a new flying group, the Blue Angels. It was Wick who had come up with the name for the new group and was one of the 4 original pilots performing air shows all over the U.S. He left the Blue Angels to join the highly classified test programs, which were the precursors to Project Mercury. Wick test flew the first carrier-launched aircraft capable of delivering a nuclear warhead, and unfortunately, the aircraft malfunctioned, resulting in his death in 1951. Accepting the award on Wick's behalf is his grandson, Byron.
So was there a specific moment after learning about like the World War II era that you kind of just sparked your interest enough to search after who this man was?
I'm almost embarrassed that I did not take interest earlier. It doesn't make sense because I've always loved history. I'm absolutely obsessed with history. But for some reason, it seemed like I just had this assumption that we already knew everything there was to know about Wick, which was virtually nothing. So I hadn't looked into it until at one point, randomly, my brother actually just thought like, information age, maybe someone's published something new. What if we Google Maurice Neil Wickendahl? And that's when, a couple things came up around the Blue Angels, and we knew he had named the Blue Angels from another documentary. Maybe we didn't appreciate that was pretty substantive, and a lot of people would really care about that. For us, it was just like, oh, neat, he was in an air show, and he helped come up with the name. But my brother did that Google search, and suddenly there were a couple other references to Wickendahl from this guy, Y.D. Feitner, who apparently had flown with Wickendahl in World War II. and was describing him and some of their actions together, and that was like a sudden aha moment where I was realizing there was more out there of the story than what I thought was available, and there were potentially other angles to get to know Wick versus just my grandmother or some Blue Angels archives. There may even be records of people who knew him who might have talked about him. So that kind of sparked the curiosity to learn a little more.
So I was so thrilled when I heard that the Kansas Aviation Museum had an interest in Grandpa Wick. I've always been fascinated by this elusive World War II Blue Angel hero that I had never met, that actually my dad had never even met. But he was my blood relative, so it made sense I was interested. I just didn't know there were others who would share that interest in Wick. I thought I had uncovered every kernel of detail about his thrilling and sadly short life. But Alyssa and the Kansas Aviation Museum proved how much more history is out there if you are just willing to pursue it with enough passion. With their help, I feel like I can finally add some brushes of color to those grainy pictures of an absolutely aviation-obsessed boy and young man. I know so much more about the challenge he faced from going from a small town in Kansas to one of that small group of aviators that was able to hold back the Japanese tide in the dark and desperate days of 1942, to then helping found and name the Blue Angels, to then testing the most dangerous and in many ways vital aircraft that kept the US ahead of the Soviets right at the beginning of the Cold War. I also feel like I know more about that breed of aviators and their all-consuming love for that often deadly thrill of mastering the skies. My heart always thinks that he died from testing those secret military aircraft so young, actually at my exact age of 33, and I never got to meet him. Though, given that passion he had for flight, perhaps that is how he would have wanted his time to end. I am so grateful to you all for uncovering his almost forgotten life and for sharing it out. I think learning about the grit and the courage and the sacrifice of people like Wick elevates at least me and gives that perspective and motivation to live a richer life in the world that his generation fought so hard to give us. So thank you, Wick, and thank you, Kansas Aviation Museum. Big thanks to Josh Mackey, the curator. Big thanks to Alyssa and Larry, who met each other and through just a very unlikely relationship and story managed to uncover this whole story around Wick and bring it to life. So keep up the amazing work, and thank you guys again.
Our second 2021 Hall of Fame inductee is CPT Edward Joseph Ed Dwight Jr., USAF, retired. Born in the 1930s, Ed Dwight Jr. grew up in Kansas City, Kansas. Ed had an early love and understanding of aviation. He would observe the airplanes he saw at the Fairfax Assembly Plant, closely studying their takeoffs and landings. It wasn't until he saw a black pilot featured in the local paper that he realized he could pursue his dreams as not only an engineer, but also as a pilot. Ed joined the United States Air Force in 1953 and eventually was promoted to second lieutenant, and after more training, earned his degree in aeronautical engineering and became a trained test pilot. Completing more than 9,000 hours of flight time, 2,000 of those in high-performance jets, Ed was selected to be the first African-American astronaut trainee for NASA. Although he was never selected for flight, he retired from the Air Force in 1966, continuing his career as an aeronautical engineer and finding an interest in sculpting. Again, going back to school, he studied to operate a metal casting foundry, eventually creating more than 70 bronze sculptures that specifically highlighted Black history, including the Tuskegee Airmen, Black airplane pilots, and William Smith, the former director of the Denver Airport. And now to accept his award, Ed Dwight.
Hello all. First of all, I want to thank the Kansas Aviation Hall of Fame for this incredible honor. It was totally unexpected, and I'm highly honored about it. But I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the person that was totally responsible for my career in aviation and all the other wonderful things that have happened in my life, and that was my mom. Being born back in the 30s, I lived on the outskirts of town, right adjacent to Fairfax Airport in Kansas City. And Mom first took me there when I was 2 years old. And all of a sudden, this entire world of aviation opened up as an option in my life. After that first visit, going to the airport every day was part of my daily routine. I'd also be remiss if I didn't thank all those pilots that allowed me access to these airplanes because they paid me money for cleaning out the airplanes after the hunting trips. And so that also stimulated some, my vision, and this germ of flying kind of got instilled. And I want to thank those pilots, and I want to thank those mechanics that I hung out with, and I became their mascot at the airport there. Later on, when I actually began to decide about a flying career, I never actually thought that I had the ability to fly because all the people around me were white. All the pilots and that had anything to do with aviation were all white. So I never visualized myself as being a part of that club. But I was inspired by the Korean War and a pilot from Kansas City. Dayton Ragland got shot down in Korea, which opened the door to my first knowledge that black people were able to fly. This really inspired me to the point of joining the Air Force, flying, and having a fairly successful flying career. So much so that I was honored by President Kennedy by being appointed to in training for the astronaut program. Being an astronaut was not on my bucket list, but I took the task because it was at the request of the president. So I want to thank him for that, and all the other folks that I've met over the years who have come along and supported all these various and sundry ventures that I've been on. So thanks again to the Kansas State Hall of Fame. And I hope to visit it sooner than later. So thanks. My thanks to everybody about this honor. Thank you. Bye.
Well, that's all there is for this evening. Thanks for joining us tonight for the 36th Annual Kansas Aviation Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Those 5 inductees earned their wings tonight. We hope you enjoyed, and you'll join us next year when we do it in person at the museum. I'm Tim Norton, Executive Director of the Kansas Aviation Museum, wishing you good night, and I'd say safe travels, but you're already home, aren't you? Thank you for joining us.